All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I got another watch list for you, and the theme of the week is going to be inflation coming down because we have this CPI report on Thursday, and you're actually going to hear from Powell before. So we have a ton of things to talk about. There is also going to be the start of earnings season, and I got a little bit of a breakdown there as well as a couple of plays, and then you're also going to be getting a very large health conference out of JP and the biotechs may go crazy, but we have to start with what happened on Friday. My goodness, this was a wild, wild day. Not to mention, if you haven't noticed, I think since the beginning of the year, this is a pretty good start. There's even a lot of statistics behind it that says this could end up being a good year. The data, people are liking it. People are talking soft landing, but I'll tell you right now, I did not like that data at all on Friday. It was surprisingly very strong employment data, but the market managed to go up. Even though most of the data should have brought the market down, there was one element with the wages. The fact that the wages went down, it really added a lot of calmness or took off some of the pressure from Wall Street. But pretty much the market just squeezed on Friday, and how we set up this week with all the events, it's going to be action-packed. And that first week, it did not disappoint. So we got a lot to go over. I'm going to go over all of that, the plays and everything else. So make sure we see you on stream, youtube.com/the stock market, 30 minutes before open. Drop your thumbs up, and I need your help, okay? If you are not familiar with what we do here on Sunday, tomorrow is Monday, but we have something called the random account generator. That is this account right here, and what we ask on this watch list is you post a random option trade, strike price, expiration date, all of that. Keep it below $100, and we are going to purchase it in the morning. And, we wanted to see how would the performance be with random plays, and I don't know. This tells you a lot, but as of lately, it's kind of been holding calm, and bro, those gold plays, oh man, some of you chads with the gold plays, they've actually did a little better than I thought. I think they went 1 for 3, but the one that's up, it's still up, you know what I'm saying? So post all of that. Thank you for participating. I hope you're ready for another wild week, Chad. And even on Friday, Friday was, we have so much to go over. Run it, baby.
Working to the couch, it's the 2020 last. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a little, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then you feel like it's a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down.
But right off the bat, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, Powell and CPI this week. You get CPI on Thursday and Jerome Powell on Tuesday, and these will be two very big events as this could move the Fed futures. If you are looking at the bond market, we're going to talk about that a little bit, but coming into the Fed now, everybody still doesn't know. The Fed has not made it clear whether they are going to do 50 or a quarter basis points, and now the CPI will be the final set of data that could help determine that, because remember, this is where it's going to get real key by the end of the month. Wherever the Fed futures are leading into that all, that is going to be the main key. So CPI has the ability to do that and alter the Fed futures, and we're going to see what the market is really pricing in. But now Powell speaking on Tuesday, I don't know how big of a meeting it will be. Sometimes he will discuss a lot, sometimes he won't. If you remember what happened at the beginning of last year, it was one of those Powell speeches before Congress that really set the markets down after the first week. So we got to keep our eyes out for this, but what we want to be looking for is Jerome Powell's attitude on Tuesday, because that's going to say a lot about where he thinks the market should be. So we were talking about it. The Fed was saying a lot, even in the minutes. That's when we were around like 410. How is he going to feel about this? How is he going to feel about that rally that we just got here? Pretty much, if Powell does not want the market to lead to that unwarranted loosening of financial conditions, he's probably going to say something on Tuesday. So we want to see what he says, because if he kind of gives the green light, though, the Bulls might be back in town. So we will see. But these will be the two biggest events. And again, CPI now, inflation is coming down. That is going to be the narrative. Most people are expecting it to come down. We will be talking about it a lot on stream and right before the event. I will give you a breakdown on one of these watch lists, but as of now, a lot of people are thinking CPI is going to come down. The last year-over-year comparison, that was a very high number, so it's a good chance this one will come lower, but now we want to see how the market reacts, and maybe good news is good news, bad news is bad news. I mean, we are about to find out, and then we still got to determine really all of the carnage from Friday and see how that follows up with everything throughout this week. But that is your first key. Now, number 2, man, don't forget about it. You're getting earnings season kicking off. So you're going to get the banks, home builders, and a couple of other companies, even healthcare, even Happy Vibe, bro. They guided down on Friday, right before or right after the bell, I believe. So we're going to start getting a lot of it, but most of it will be towards Friday with the bank stocks, and whatever they say, that could actually be very important. But now earnings are going to be pretty much the final factor outside of Powell and the CPI that will have the ability to sway things ahead of the Fed meeting. If the earnings are really bad, a lot of bad guidance, I mean, it'll do one thing to financial conditions, aka where the market's at, but then also if we get things that are really bad, maybe it has the chance to spook the bonds and change that bond pricing. So we're going to see what happens there. We'll go over all of the earnings this week, but now don't forget, we're going to have to juggle here between Powell data and earnings, and if you've ever watched this, man, the earnings are a very big event, so keep that one in mind. But that is your second key, and coming into the last one now, there really wasn't much over the weekend, but one thing we will have to deal with, and maybe we'll hear some from Japan too, but China, the quote-unquote official reopening has begun. Pretty much now all of those deadlines, they have passed. You could travel into China. You don't need tests. There is no more quarantine. I think you might need a test if you're coming from China, but if you're coming into China, they're pretty much opening up their borders. So this will be one thing to watch. And then another thing for emerging markets, especially Latin American countries, we've been getting a lot of turmoil as of late, but now there was also these Brazil riots, and that could be another factor affecting things. So China, Brazil, anything happening there, and there has even been a lot of people talking about emerging markets reopening or outperforming in terms of where the market is now, especially if the Fed keeps the higher rates. But these could be additional factors beyond the data, the Fed, and earnings. Otherwise, those will be the 3 main things to watch. So I hope you're ready. But let us get into the plays. So, right off the bat, I got a bunch of different plays for you. We'll go over what I'm holding, and really, I made a weird set of plays on Friday. We hit a couple of plays. I ended up holding one bad short, but I made a lot of money on other plays, and I don't have the bonds up here, but we're going to give a little discussion. But I got to start out with the biotechs, baby, that JP Biotech conference. It will be beginning on Monday, and I'm telling you, there is a lot of names on there. So if you come on stream tomorrow, we'll go over the whole event calendar. We'll share some of that info, but like literally, it would have taken me like 20 minutes to go through everything. So I figured this is one we're going to be doing live tomorrow. But man, shout out to the Chad, baby. I brought up Labu last week, and a lot of Chads brought this up, man. So thank you guys for contributing. I really do appreciate it because I forgot to mention it, and people were saying just be careful. Some of these biotech ETFs, especially if they're at a low price and things get bad there, they will be at the risk of dilution, reverse splits. That's traditionally what happens when one of those volatility ETFs stays below a certain price. They forward split it, reverse split it, and it dilutes everything, and really it gives you a whole different play. So you got to be careful with that, but definitely biotechs. I would not be surprised if all of this week you keep hearing about a bunch of random runners, because that's usually what happens through this, and it could be a very decisive conference. A lot of other analysts have been talking about this, so keep that in mind. That is the first set of plays. Then number 2, I feel like I just keep bringing this up here. JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, they both have earnings on Friday. I've been talking a lot about JP Morgan. I sold my shares on Friday because I didn't like the data and I had a little bit of gains. You'll see when we get into the plays there, but I might be down to go back into it depending on what happens. But now, to give you another piece of the story, I'd watch out for Wells Fargo because they have a lot of big mortgage exposure, and now coming into this earnings with the bank stocks, we were saying, hey, the banks are probably going to be a winner no matter what, even though their people are expecting bigger trading volumes, the higher rates, they could benefit off of it, all of that stuff. But now, why I'm saying Wells Fargo to the downside, and I don't have a play on this yet. I'm going to be looking into it, but they're the ones with a lot of exposure to mortgages. So you can make money on higher interest. You can make money in so many ways as a bank, but the ones with bigger exposure to mortgages, that one could end up being negative. So I think that will be one of the bigger X factors there coming into those earnings. And now remember, it is on Friday. Depending on how the market and data plays out, there could be some pre-earnings run-ups. So keep that one in mind. But that is play number 2. And then finally, finally, all earnings, baby. KBH. And why I'm bringing this one up, they have earnings on Wednesday. Be on the lookout for the run-up. But now the home builder guidance moving forward, I just really think it's going to be a bit of a wild card. So it's different from mortgages. We know they're not doing as good, but the home builders, they guided down ahead of things. That's why you probably notice they've kind of been bouncing as of late because they dropped before everybody else. So that's why the guidance is going to be a key, and I think it's going to be a wild card where we're not really going to know what is fully expected. So depending on that guidance we get from these earnings, it may have the ability to be big. And we did play KBH, I believe, last earnings. It moves pretty decent. I think the best way to go about it is shares because it doesn't move too much, but a couple of dollars here and there on 100 shares, even 50, I mean, you can make a nice little bag there. So we will see what happens. But that is play number 3. As far as everything else now, I didn't make any, or well, you can't really see it there. I did make a couple of plays on Friday, and really it started off in the morning. Like I told you, I sold my JP Morgan, and then like 15 seconds later, I opened up an NQ. It's because I thought the data was bad in the morning, and I still stand by it. So I sold out when the data was so strong. It rocketed up. Even by the bell, I was down like $2,000, and then it dropped, and believe it or not, I was actually able to close that play with a profit. So I closed out of it. Then I started playing the smaller ones just in case, and then I hit a bunch of these day trades, and I got trapped on the final NQ. Where is it? There was one NQ I got trapped on. Oh, yeah, this one right here. It was the last one right there, and then I ended up holding another MNQ, and then I opened up 100 shares of Sava due to the Biogen. They got some sort of FDA approval for the lecanemab. It's the Alzheimer's drug there, but those are the only other plays I made. I'm still holding these, and I'm still in now the NQ and the MNQ. I'm down on those, but I was bringing it up on Friday. I made a lot of money on my ES in bonds, and now that's something I didn't have on here. We're going to talk about it a lot, but now the bonds are looking like they are about to squeeze. Pretty much what happened on Friday, it was two things, and you'll notice it had a big move, but then it continued because after 10 a.m., it was the bad data that really gave you the biggest part of the moves, and that's something we got to bring up on Friday where I was like, hey, man, we're going to need a follow-up. I was still okay holding my NQs because there was bad data that could have been good for the market, but the jobs data was strong, but that PMI data was like extremely recessionary. I'm surprised a lot more people didn't bring it up, but the last time the PMIs have cratered like that, I mean, it was usually during some sort of a bigger slowdown, but I think the bonds are right there about to get squeezed. They're kind of in pole position, so watch out for that. Still holding those. Still got my ES from Powell. I am still in the yen, and I have this one up because I think now we may see bigger currency moves, and that was another thing on Friday. The dollar was very sensitive, and remember, I still got those YCL shares. They haven't really moved much, but that's a cheaper way to go about playing the yen, so still holding those, but going to be writing out all of these different plays. I got the Sava. I was hoping I could get a day trade, but then it really got clapped after the Biogen stuff, but they may have day two, especially with the health conference, so we'll see what happens. Then Tesla, they kind of came back a little bit. I mean, we were doing a lot better last week and then a lot worse, but here's the thing. Over the weekend, Barron's gave them a very, very positive note, so I want to see how that plays out, but maybe we'll have to get through CPI and everything else, but really, the days with data have been the days that have saved Tesla from some of this stuff, so I think Tesla on CPI day might be a big one, so watch out for them. And then XLU, the utilities, I've been bringing them up with the industrials and all of that, and I think it's going to be a good one to watch, so we'll see how it plays out with the data, but you'll notice they're not really ready to make their move just yet. And then the industrials did break out, and I'll tell you this, if industrials lead, utilities will go right alongside it. So still in those, still got a couple of other plays as we've gone over, but for the most part, going to be watching what I told you, looking for the earnings, and I think bonds and just some of the bigger plays related to volatility with data in the Fed, I think that might be our money this week, so I hope you're ready. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure Hydrate Healthy ready to go. Make sure to post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. I need you to remember, baby, you've came this far. You have a destiny. What's meant to be is meant to teach you everything, both good and bad. Remember, there is fire in success and failure. It's only week number 2. There's going to be opportunity this year, but you got to budget for it and give yourself that stamina, baby. But it's game time. You're ready, Chad. Let's have another awesome week. Let's get the data. Let's get the macro. See where it takes us. And before you know it, man, we're going to be at the end of the quarter. And who knows? Things could be either really good or really bad, but we will find out. But that's it. I think. You drink the water. Okay. I love you, Chad. You ready? I love you, baby. Horn.